Okay, good morning to everyone. A very warm welcome to this panel on European University Initiative, sharing good practices, lessons learned, and plans among UNICA members. I'm Luciano Saso, I'm the president of UNICA, and it is very important for UNICA to follow this topic, which is very close to our heart, to the heart of our members in this period, and we would like to share, as we said, some good practices, some ideas among different members. At the moment, UNICA has 53 universities in 37 capital cities. And we are very proud to say that 36 UNICA members were already successful in the 2 pilot calls which were launched by the European Commission, with a total success rate of about 80%, considering that unfortunately some of the countries represented by UNICA were not eligible for these 2 calls. We hope that also the very few UNICA members which were not successful until now will actually receive the good news about new European universities very soon. And again, for UNICA, it's very important, it's a priority to play this role of umbrella organization in this moment. And today, I'm very happy to have a very important panel in the morning, and then a second one in the second half of the morning. The first one has a title, Work in Progress, Lessons Learned and Plans for European Universities in the Post-COVID Era. We really hope that this COVID period will finish very soon, that we will have vaccines available soon, and then we will go back to a new normal. Of course, learning some lessons from this period, but going back to a new way of functioning at our universities and for our networks. And in this first panel this morning, we have representatives from alliances selected under the first call launched by the European Commission. And I'm very proud to introduce the different panelists. They are Verena Blechinger-Talcott, Vice President of the Free University of Berlin, representing Europa. Henrik Wegener, Rector of the University of Copenhagen, member of the 4EU+. Artūras Vasiliauskas, Vice Rector of Vilnius University, member of ARQUS. Ferenc Takó, Head of International Strategy Office of Eötvös-Loránd University, member of CHARM. Astrid Söderbergh, President of Stockholm University, member of CIVIS. Fred Veerman, Professor of University of Amsterdam, member of EPICUR. Igor Papic, Rector of the University of Ljubljana, member of UTOPIA. Ina Druviete, Vice Rector of the University of Latvia, member of Fordham. And Luisa Corrado, from the University Tor Vergata, member of UFE. So without further ado, I would like to start to ask some questions to this distinguished panelists, and I kindly ask them not to exceed 2 minutes per intervention. We will have several questions, so there will be possibilities to share, again, different ideas, different experiences, and then at the end, I know that online also we have other very high-level participants. I would like to open the floor at the end and to have a discussion also with the other participants. So the first questions I have for the panel is, European universities have been encouraged to highly integrate education and research in their operation. Which activities are being planned by your alliance in this direction? And I would like to start in alphabetical order by alliances with Europa, and I ask Verena to start.
Yeah, thank you very much, Luciano, for the kind introduction and for having us here on this distinguished panel. Europa is an alliance of 8 universities, and I just looked, I think there are 5 UNICA members in Europa. We are Freie Universität Berlin, Paris 1, Sorbonne Panthéon. We have Helsinki, Edinburgh, and we have Krakow, we have the Complutense in Madrid, Bologna, who did I forget? KU Leuven, excuse me. Yes, and KU Leuven. So, and we have in our alliance, we have 4 goals. First of all, with the integration of education, we have planned to have joint bachelor programs among all the UNA partners. So we have 1 bachelor in European studies to also strengthen the European profile of our alliance and the knowledge about Europe among our students. A 2nd joint bachelor in the field of sustainability, because we think this is a very important topic for the future, and both are highly interdisciplinary. And then we also plan a joint doctoral program on cultural heritage that also, again, should enable our students to focus on the joint European heritage. In research, we have had from the beginning seed funding for joint research initiatives between the 8 partner universities, and we now added a new module that's the research initiation module, where we start joint projects, among others, in the field of One Health that brings together the social sciences, the humanities, and the life sciences. We also have a future UniLab that is debating the role of universities in the future, bringing together, on the one hand, visionaries that have ideas, and on the other hand, implementers that are then set these ideas into motion or tell us where there are stepping stones and boundaries. And I think I'm getting through my 2 minutes. So in that way, I will stop here and talk about other things like our continuing education program later on.
Thank you very much, Verena. So on the same topic, we continue with Henrik, representing 4EU+.
Thank you very much, Luciano, Mr. President, and thanks to UNICA for establishing this opportunity to share experiences. I think it's very important this day of age. So in 4EU+, which is universities from Milano, Prague, Warsaw, Paris, Sorbonne, Heidelberg, and Copenhagen, we see ourselves as leading research-intensive universities in Europe, and therefore focusing very early on how to further integrate and make use of our huge research activities in our educational activities is of utmost importance. So it's been at the top of our mind from the beginning that this is where we have to make new advances. One area or one activity which we have started is to establish or create a joint position paper on innovative pedagogics, which will also focus on new ways to bring research, the living and active research, closer to the students. We are developing novel ways on how to engage students in inquiry-based activities where faculty facilitate, supervise, and mentor students as if they were early-stage researchers. We have established a number of research flagships, and in the context of those research flagships, we have initiated specific educational activities that depart from those research activities. At the moment, it's 31 different educational activities that are being developed in the context of our flagships, and we are set to start more. Just as one example, which is not very innovative, but yet very inspirational for our students, is case challenges, which we see being used more and more as an active means of inspiring students to find out how their teaching, how their topics can be used in a very concrete context to develop solutions to the grand challenges of this world. So I think I'll stop there and wait for your further questions. So
thank you very much. And now on the same topic, I would like to ask Artūras from ARQUS also to intervene.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
So first of all, I would like to mention that we are the alliance of 7 universities. There's Bergen, Granada, Graz, Leipzig, Lyon, Padua, and Vilnius. So quite a nice bunch, I think, from the north to the south. And we are focusing on research-based teaching in terms of integrating education and research, and we have a lot of formats for that. We developed such format as pedagogical lab, which enables cross-cutting staff collaboration and training. We also have a number of twinning launches, which bring together teachers and staff and students in moving around the alliance. We also want to develop at least 3 MA programs, joint programs, and one of them will be a translation program, another will be cyber security, and the third one will be European studies. We are happy that we received Horizon funding for more of a research-based project, and its focus will be on artificial intelligence, digital transformation, and climate change topics, designed interdisciplinary areas, which really help us to share our expertise and our resources. And we also decided to have a feasibility study of how can we share our research infrastructure resources. This is a very challenging question, but we believe that we can do that. And also another important stress is on supporting early researchers and doctoral students, and we have a lot of activities planned around this topic. So to be very brief, this is our
Thank you very much, Artūras. Now is the turn of Charm with Ferenc, please.
Thank you very much, President, and thank you very much for your very kind invitation. It's my pleasure to be here representing CHARM European University, Challenge-Driven Accessible Research-Based Mobile European University. Our alliance is coordinated by University of Barcelona, with members of University of Montpellier, University of Utrecht, Trinity College Dublin, and Ötös University from Hungary. We are basically working on building the full structure of a new European higher education institution, and what we are co-creating jointly with our students, academic and non-academic staff, and also involving external stakeholders, now is a 1 year or more than 1 year master's program, a pilot program which is going to start in the fall semester of 21. We are going to start recruitment early February. And in this program, we are building on the one hand on the very strong research traditions of these 5 institutions. We are all research intensive universities with quite similar traditions. On the other hand, reflecting on the most actual challenges, basically focusing on sustainable development and the sustainable development goals on some areas. And in this program, students are going to be involved also in research with the researchers of the 5 institutions, and also in collaboration with external stakeholders. We are going to involve the business field in our education. And of course, I would also mention that we are just starting the new cooperation in the Age 2020 project. I think this is the same in other alliances as well. We are going to start in January, and there we are going to work together for building the research background for the long-term functioning of our alliance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ferenc. And now it is the turn of Astrid, representing CIVIS.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Luciano. CIVIS is an alliance uniting 8 universities across Europe, from Stockholm in the north, via Brussels, Tübingen, Bucharest, Madrid, Sapienza, Universidad di Roma, and in the south, Athens. And last but not least, of course, Aix-Marseille, which is coordinating our alliance. We are focusing on 5 societal themes, and the alliance will design new study programs, facilitate research collaborations, and foster civic engagement, focusing on 5 major challenges. The first is climate, environment, and energy. The second, health. The third, society, culture, and heritage. The fourth, digital and technological transformations. And the fifth, cities, territories, and mobilities. And apart from working together between our 8 universities, external stakeholders also take part in our alliance through the Strategic Consultative Council of the Alliance, and each university has at least one external stakeholder as an associate partner in the alliance. So 2 working tracks I would like to just mention. One is creating hubs for joint education, research, and innovation within these 5 themes that I already mentioned. Transdisciplinary education, but also education involving external stakeholders. And then also we create open labs for cooperation with city, region, and local society as platforms for CIVIS partners and local stakeholders to jointly explore and develop solutions to local and regional challenges. So the civic engagement part is a very important dimension of our collaboration in research and higher education within CIVIS. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Astrid. And now it is the turn of Fred, representing EPICUR.
Thank you. Yeah, EPICUR brings together 8 universities from 6 European countries with rather common, I would say, academic and societal goals. We integrate collaborative and multilingual liberal arts and sciences approaches across a diverse range of courses and programs. There is a sort of inter and transdisciplinarity actually right from the start available, in particular also related to that liberal arts and sciences approach for our activity. So this includes new ways of sharing, developing teaching, learning, new ways of shaping academic careers, and working on those pressing societal goals. For both educational and research activities, the deliverables are developed with a focus on societal engagement and challenges in mind. The partners pool their expertise, platforms, resources to deliver joint curricula, modules, and research projects covering various disciplines in a rather multilingual, inter, and really transdisciplinarity environment. That's basically the idea.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And now it is a pleasure to give the floor to Igor, the Rector of the University of Ljubljana, representing UTOPIA.
Thank you, Luciano. Regards from the UTOPIA Alliance. Our alliance consists of 6 universities: Cergy, Paris, VUB, Belgium, Zurich, Göteborg, Pompeu Fabra from Barcelona, and of course Ljubljana. About education and research as crucial parts of our alliance. Yes, I think for all our alliances, these are the most important elements of our alliances. Last week we had a so-called electronic EUTOPIA week, and we were discussing again our vision, our mission, according to what we applied for a year ago and what happened in this year. We are aware that there are some new circumstances, not only related to COVID, but also to the new European policy in this field. The European Commission is issuing many strategic documents, and the question was, should we adopt our vision, our mission, according to these new developments? We came to a conclusion that, of course, education and the research are a crucial element. For the vision, we said it is okay, as it was stated almost 2 years ago, despite the COVID circumstances, but we need some kind of refreshing, water refreshing. About the mission, that includes, of course, in our case, 7 subjects. The 2 of them are, of course, education and research. We actually came to a conclusion that we have enough subjects. The question is only how to, we have so-called horizontal activities, and the question is how now interconnect these horizontal activities. I think the most important is not just what we are doing in the field of education and research, but how we can combine these two fields. And this is probably the main issue for the next year of our operation. Otherwise, I can mention that we are, of course, planning to develop special UTOPIA methodology in the field of education. We are defining learning units. It's not just the question of establishing new programs, but we want to, within our learning units, provide existing subjects that are available from different universities. And in that way, we can much quicker start with these activities. If I mention also the field of research, we gained additional 2 projects in this year, in the last year. One is co-fund, like Science and Innovation Fellowship, and the other is UTOPIA Train. So the question is, of course, how to integrate as much as possible our researchers, our professors. Maybe that's also the part of one of the next questions. But the most important issue is that as big number as possible of our researchers, professors is getting involved in all these activities. I think that's the most important issue. And of course, we were discussing last week also the possibility of e-mobility, because now we have special conditions, and it's much easier to coordinate these exchange programs within 6 universities than more in general. And of course, the main point of our application is so-called student-centered university, and of course we follow. We are involving students at all levels of our decision making.
Thank you, Igor, also for touching upon the topic of virtual mobility. We will have maybe a deeper discussion on this later on. But for the moment, let's continue now with the FODEM, represented by Ina.
Dear colleagues, thank you very much for your invitation to participate in this inspiring meeting. I am representing the alliance called For Them, and it means fostering outreach within European regions, transnational higher education, and mobility. And we are 7 universities together. University of Latvia is the only university represented in UNICA. The other universities are our leading partner, Johannes Gutenberg University in Mainz, University of Burgundy, University of Jyväskylä, Opole University, Palermo, Valencia, and we, as most of you, have forwarded very ambitious goals. Integration between research and studies lay in the background of all our universities. Cooperation with society and with social partners could be added in order to make a triangle of knowledge. And as most of you, we are acting through so-called research labs. And our alliance has established 7 research labs, for instance, digital transformation, food science experience, Europe, resilience, life quality and demography, and multilingualism in school and higher education. And how we are trying to integrate research and studies. We have our messengers, students, involved in these research labs. In each of them, several students from all universities are participating, and of course our professors, our teaching staff is trying to involve lessons from this cooperation to their everyday work. And we also could say that now we are participating in Horizon 2020, so we have a special program called FIT for them, and FIT means fostering institutional transformation. And of course, we are going to transform our teaching and research process to a much more closer integration, synergy, between our researchers and professors, and in order to implement this, we have a system of measures, but it would be an issue for our next questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ina. And now, last but not least, I would like to give the floor to Luisa, representing UFE. You are muted, Luisa.
Thank you, Luciano. UFE is composed by 10 student-centered and research-based universities. Beyond Tor Vergata, we have Maastricht, University of Carlo III, Antwerp, Bremen, Essex, Nicolaus Copernicus, Rijeka, Eastern Finland, and Cyprus. And also we have non-academic partners that support our virtual campus. Now with virtual mobility is actually crucial to have this support. We have Chiron, plus other 2 non-academic partners, ADECO and the European entrepreneurs for the placement of our students. We are actually trying to integrate research and education first by building the first European diploma, which is launching actually on Monday, so on Monday the 3rd, today actually. In this program we have both academic activities and non-academic activities that will engage students also in a series of research teams. We are also planning to expand the integration between education and research with our UFE Research Mobility Program, which provides support to all the researchers of the Alliance at all career stages to work with other researchers in other universities on research projects, to promote multidisciplinarity of research across the network, and to enrich the research and training opportunities within the UFE network. Beyond the mobility of our staff, we also plan to give the position of adjunct professors or lecturers to our staff. We also have a series of UFE postdoc programs that will support early career researchers with excellent research conditions and with dedicated mentoring across all the UFE universities. And finally, we have also received further support from the European Commission, from Horizon 2020, with the newly funded UFERING project. UFERING stands for UFE Transforming Research and Innovation Through Europe-wide Knowledge Transfers, which we actually will be important in order to promote and implement open science as the new normal across the Alliance, and support a common research and innovation agenda of across the youth institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luisa. And now I would like to start a second round of comments from the different distinguished participants in this panel, asking questions on 3 different elements. The first element is the governance model. I mean, to create a European university is certainly a big challenge. Our universities very often are centuries old, so they've been functioning in a certain way for a long time. We belong to different countries, which from the point of view of education, usually, had different laws, different approaches, etc. And now I think it's very exciting for all of us to create real European universities. But of course, we know that that is not easy. So my first question will be related to the governance model that your alliance chose. The second point is related to the communication strategies. How did you manage, or how are you trying to involve the entire university community in the project? So students, academics, administrative and technical staff. And we know that, again, is not an easy task. And then another point is related to multilingualism. We know that in European Union, we have so many different languages spoken. And, of course, this sometimes can be a challenge, again, to have exchanges, to involve students and staff in all activities using so many different languages. So I would like to start again this round, on these 3 topics: governance model, communication strategies, and multilingualism, starting again with Europa, and I give the floor to Verena.
Yeah, thank you very much. For UNA Europa, we have decided to establish a non-profit association under Belgian law, UNA Europa VZW, that was established in Krakow in 2019. So UNA Europa is governed like a non-profit organization by a general assembly that includes the rectors and presidents of the member universities, an executive committee and board of directors, which is generally staffed by the vice presidents in charge of UNA Europa, and are then supported by the UNA Europa Association. And then within UNA Europa, we have the currently funded by the EU, we have the UNA Europa One Europe project, and that is managed by a project steering committee. The UNA Europa Association is meant as an umbrella that includes the currently EU-funded project, but also allows us to add other initiatives under the UNA Europa umbrella to come in, so that we also have a roof that is held up by several pillars, and even if one pillar falls away, the whole association stays stable. Our UNA Europa Association is meant to pursue integrated cooperation between the university partners in education, research and service to society, to create a culture of excellence in education and research, foster and exchange best practices, and to contribute to the development of the European higher education area and the European research area. So this is what we do. We also have established an external advisory board that is staffed by internationally highly visible people with experience and who can give us support in the context of socioeconomic and academic activities, but also just based on their intellectual, societal or scientific influence or merits. With regards to communication inside UNA Europa, we have tried to mirror basically the structures that we have inside a university. So we have the meeting of the board of directors, we have a regular staff exchange, staff week that we hold, we have a podcast that describes the activities and tries to increase understanding of each other's universities, also to explain the differences in the university setup. We have job shadowing for staff members. We have an academic exchange that we also support through joint funding initiatives. And we have an UNA Europa student board where we have representatives of the student assemblies of all the UNA Europa member universities, and when the board of directors meets, then we also usually have meetings of the other groups within the UNA Europa network. So the student board meets and comes up with initiatives and ideas, the same way as the researchers meet in the self-steering committees directed to our joint focus areas: sustainability, data science, cultural heritage and European studies. And then we also have special task forces for topics that are of mutual interest, for example, gender and diversity, or sustainability and environmental studies, where we also bring together experts from the various partner universities and then exchange ideas and best practices. Maybe that much for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Verena. And now let's hear from 4U+, Henrik, please.
Thank you very much. I think it's fair to say for us, governance is still a work in progress. 4EU existed as an alliance before the European networks idea was even developed. So you could say we have departed from a classical alliance governance model and are now developing into a more classical institutional university governance model, as was also the case for UNA Europa. We are still aiming for a flexible model because the European legal frameworks for developing our educational activities is also a work in progress. We are still living in the old European legal framework. We of course expect a lot from our European community in terms of being able to offer, you could say, common educational solutions and also joint degrees and so on and so forth, which will somehow impact exactly what it is we have to govern. So for the time being, we have come from an alliance model. We are developing into a hybrid semi-institutional governance model with all that comes with it. We try very much to include students, staff, faculty, and also stakeholders in our governance, both for input, but also for influence. And we find that something that is seen as very appealing to those of our staff or students who take part in it. We have not yet established a legal entity. It's just around the corner. And also establishing a formal secretariat and staffing it is also just around the corner. So as you can see, we have not plunged in, but we are developing gradually while already operating at full speed on a lot of the activities that we had to set in motion. But that came from the fact that we already had an existing governance from the old alliance. On our communication strategies, I think we try also there to be, let's say, realistic. First and foremost, of course, putting out broad communication to all of the university community, but also making sure that we reach those who can and will be part of this journey in the early phases. And of course, that does not mean all of staff and all of students in the university. They have to be able to plug into our flagship programs and other offerings. And therefore, we try also to target our communication to those who are most likely to be able to benefit from what we do. But of course, we have home pages and social media running and everything, but we try to mix the broad and the very targeted. Finally, on multilingualism, we're certainly very aware of the challenges. We focus right now on creating opportunities for students who would like to become familiar with the less taught languages. And in our alliance, that means the Czech, Polish, and Danish language. So those students who have those inclinations are made aware of the opportunities, and we make it easy for them to get access to them. And secondly, one of our flagships deals explicitly with linguistics, and we're working on supporting the interest in languages through, for instance, Dimension Francophone, which is creating a network for French-speaking programs within our PhD programs in social science. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now it is a pleasure to hear from ARQUS. Artūras, please.
Hello again. Well, actually, we celebrated sort of a birthday last week because in 2018, a memorandum of understanding was signed between 7 universities establishing the ARQUS alliance, and we are now moving towards more sort of a regulated legally situation when we will establish an overarching agreement on cooperation between ARQUS universities, but it does not mean yet establishing a legal entity, I guess. And a very important point maybe is to say that we have this multi-level structure which ensures multi-level coordination and broad-based participation of all groups in the institutions, the research staff, teaching staff, administrative staff, and so on. And I have a feeling myself that we try to base our decisions on consensus, which is quite challenging because we are from, as Luciano mentioned already, we are from different cultures, different countries, different regulatory environments, but we are trying hard to do that. And Similarly, as was mentioned before, our alliance is sort of mirroring the university structures in a broad sense, and the top institution which regulates, which makes the general policy, establish long-term and medium-term strategies is Rector's Council. When we have a much broader, in terms of participation, body which is called Steering Committee. It brings together everybody who is responsible for overall coordination and implementation of alliance activities. And here we have quite a technical level of management team. And we also have this body which we call ARQUS Academy, and it's a body which is bringing together people in order to provide staff development opportunities and provide learning opportunities for staff. And at this body, we want to certify these achievements with professional development opportunities so that people get formal recognition for their effort. Very important part of our structure is Student Council, and important for first of all because it gives us feedback. Students are not the only one, but probably the most important sort of interest group in the alliance, because universities cannot exist without students. So they are actively involved in our work. And as it was mentioned before, we also have International Advisory Board. And it is composed of 5 independent and internationally recognized experts. It's quite a complex structure, I would say. We have 7 action lines, and among them we have around 70 activities. So I think the complexity will always be a challenge. So beyond that number of activities, we always need to have this general goal of moving ahead. I hope we are developing the sense of that, the general goal. And in terms of communication strategies, I think we are governed, we try to sort of implement them by adhering to 3 principles, which is awareness. We want to raise awareness among staff and other groups in universities that here are the opportunities. Then it's engagement. It means that we don't only communicate to our target groups, but we get them engaged. There is a 2-way communication. We work together. And the 3rd principle is openness, which is self-defining, that we want to make our achievements and our expertise open. And we actually redefined our communication strategy quite recently, and we understand that we really need to work with differently tailored message to each target group. Students, researchers, and teachers and administrative staff, they need to understand clearly the benefits of participating in the alliance activities and developing this common sort of European university. In terms of multilingualism, we actually have a separate action line which is devoted to multilingual and multicultural universities. So this is one of our focuses. And in our alliance, we have at least two universities who represent smaller languages. That's Lithuanian, my language, and Norwegian language. So it's also adds some nice coloring. I think that we have this real multilingual alliance, and we actually set our objectives that we want to ensure that students and instructors have the language proficiency and cultural competence they need for their studies and future professional activities. The second objective is that we want to ensure that subject-specific and language learning go hand in hand, promoting multilingualism and multiculturalism in university programs. And also our focus on multilingualism means that we want really to reflect in each of our universities how do we develop multilingualism principles institutionally, and we're developing this thing which is called ARQUS Charter on Language Policy, so it's really it will be a very useful tool to reach the objectives I just mentioned about multilingualism. So that's it on ARQUS side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Artūras. And I know that Fred, unfortunately, he has to leave at 11. So if you don't mind, Ferenc, I would like to give the floor now to Fred, representing EPICUR, to give also his comments on this. And since he's leaving, maybe, Fred, you could also anticipate something related to the next question that I'm going to ask, that of course, it is related to COVID. I wanted to wait a bit before entering the big topic, but again, I think it's important also to see how EPICUR is also facing the challenge of COVID, and how much did you change your plans, because of these pandemics.
Okay, thank you. And all this in 2 minutes, right?
Yes.
That's the ambition.
We like
in the right spirit, I would say. Well, first of all, I think like the others, we are building on long-standing experience in managing cross-border higher education networks. So actually, we make use of that. What we try to do quite elaborately is indeed somehow involve all stakeholders from the entire student and academic life cycle. So they're all represented, ranging from the student board to steering committee, with the university leaders of the EPICUR 8 universities. So that's what we try to do. At the same time, it's of course very important to have working groups aimed at involving a wide range of stakeholders at the local level. So that's also quite important in our model. So that's briefly about the structure. With respect to communication, I think not only the management team, but also the academics, the administrative and technical staff are involved right from the start in the discussion and development of the deliverables. So that's, I think, really important for good communication. For good communication also, we are developing an ambassadors program for which students and staff from all the EPICUR partners are invited, and that works also very well. With respect to multilingualism, that is indeed an important theme in the EPICUR program. What we are trying to do is developing a European model for language policy, trying to boost the viability of the European language programs, especially the smaller language European, so-called smaller languages, because actually all over Europe we see that those programs somehow have difficulties in really, trying to survive. So we are trying to set up collaboration between those partners. And recently we, for the way of multilingualism to operate correctly, we launched a particular program, and there is a model of this language policy that was officially signed by all rectors of the universities. And we are now launching a first pilot for a couple of language programs, Modern Greek, Scandinavian and Slavonic. So that's multilingualism. Then with respect to, indeed, for COVID, I think it's important to, that right from the start, the idea was, of course, to indeed develop online, blended and hybrid courses. So in a way, like all of you, you're now inventing the last, let's say, last 6 months, more of this, and it was in our program, so this really works very good. We are very happy to say that the first online courses have started in the beginning of November, and more courses will be offered to the EPICUR students in the next spring semester. So basically, I think that's in 2 minutes, more or less, what I can say.
We managed to do this miracle of, and of course we will go back to the COVID topic with all the panelists later, but thank you very much, Fred, for participating. I know you have to leave in a few minutes, and we will keep in touch for other events. Thank you very much. So let's resume the order with Charm. So it's a pleasure to give the floor to Ferenc for the comments again around the governance, communication and multilingualism.
Thank you very much again. So in terms of the governance, I would like to emphasize again that on the one hand, we are working in this 3 years project. On the other hand, we are planning for the long term. So basically we have the kind of usual governance structure of the project. So of course, with the with the rectors, vice rectors, and the operative bodies. But meanwhile, so while we are working on building this new university body, we are continuously transforming this project coordination structure. To that, we would like to test also, because the year 2021-22 is not only the pilot master's program, but also the piloting of the full structure of this new institution. And we are transforming our operation. Just to mention one example, several decisions, discussions which were operated by the project management team involving experts from the institutions are now being taken over by an academic board, which is coordinating the master's program. In terms of communication, I would like to stress it. Engagement was already mentioned here, and also in our case, it is very important from the very beginning that we involve students, academic staff, non-academic staff, researchers, and also the external stakeholders in this co-creative procedure. So this, and I think this is the best way of communicating our progress and our new challenges involving more and more colleagues. For example, from ELTE, there are about 100 colleagues cooperating in the work of CHARM already. But on the other hand, we are of course organizing targeted events for our researchers, events for teachers, events for external stakeholders to introduce the activities of CHARM-EU. And just last Monday and Tuesday, we had the CHARM-EU Days, which was the first annual conference of the Alliance, which is absolutely open for all interested in it. And just a few sentences, I know I'm over 2 minutes already, about multilingualism. We are absolutely counting with it and thinking with it on the long term. We are planning to involve the languages of the partner countries in our programs, and we are also very grateful for EPICUR for their work in organizing the alliance of the alliances in terms of multilingualism. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ferenc. And now let's hear from CIVIS. Astrid, please.
Thank you, Luciano. In CIVIS, we adopted a step-by-step approach to establish our governance model. That is, we have not yet, that is, we have chosen the form of legal entity that we would prefer, which is the same as Europa, the non-profit association under Belgian law. But we have taken this step-by-step approach where we are still in the fabric phase, so to speak. We are governed by the board of rectors from all our 8 universities, and there is a more operative steering committee serving the board of rectors and taking decisions in between these meetings. We have a global participative council to engage academics and staff, and also a global students council, which has recently been adopted, also in order to really include. And there has been an immense engagement from the part of the students. But I would say that, in a way, the heart of the governance is in the middle of our organization, because that is our hubs that I already mentioned, the hubs dealing with the pressing societal challenges that are at the heart of our mission. These hubs will offer joint degrees, innovative learning practices, and blended mobility, both at bachelor's and master's level, and also multidisciplinary research programs and public or private partnerships. So, and also what I forgot to mention earlier is that most of these programs will also include partnerships with Mediterranean and African institutions. And the idea is that also these educational collaborations will also create new research projects, which also will fuel the programs with latest scientific results within the Alliance. So in a way, to get this type of dynamic functioning by engaging our researchers and teachers in the concrete work with the hubs, I think then CIVIS really becomes their preoccupation, and they really want to work to advance CIVIS. And I think that works better than any well thought out communication strategy. It is by really creating an engagement from both academics and students, that we try to communicate this throughout our organizations. But of course, it is, as many have already emphasized, very complex work, as we are 8 different universities from different countries with different cultures. But we, like many of you have said, we really try to work out this also in a consensus way, so that we are going together step by step into the future. And as concerns the question of multilingualism, of course, it is a challenge. We are 8 universities with 7 languages. One way to approach this is to start with exchanges on levels where it is easier, for example, at the master's level and within doctoral education, where often we communicate in English anyway. It is a little bit more challenging on the bachelor's level, where many of us still teach in the language of the nation. So that was a short.
Thank you very much, Astrid. And now let's hear from UTOPIA. Igor, please.
Sorry, I have to unmute myself. First, about the governance model. It was mentioned before, we have to look at this subject from 2 perspectives. One is the duration of our European project. 2 more years, 1 year is over. And the other issue is, of course, long-term governance, or maybe this is also already the part of a sustainability plan, which is probably next question. So at the level of our project, we have classical structure like strategic board consisting of presidents, rectors, and 1 level below is executive board at the level of vice rectors. At the moment, we had also included work package leaders. It is related to the execution of the project. But I mentioned before that we gained 2 additional projects within in the last year, meaning that we will have to split our executive board probably into so-called management boards of individual projects, and executive board will be only at the level of vice rectors and, of course, leaders of individual projects. So we are already facing some kind of reorganization of our governance if we compare this to our original plans from the application. Then the other important issue is so-called advisory board. It consists of external stakeholders. We managed to organize first meeting of the advisory board last week. It was extremely successful. I mean, very valuable experience for us, because, you know, we also need to see the perspective from outside. Because we are so deeply involved in our activities, and sometimes it's difficult to see your position, your visibility outside your alliance. So that's also a very important element. And if we go further towards sustainability plan, what we expect, what will happen after two more years? Of course, one option is that we establish some kind of legal entity. We have certain options today. I heard that European Commission is working also on the establishment also some kind of European university legal form. We have to wait. It's today we have too many legal obstacles at the moment. But what we agreed absolutely on the last during the last Utopia week, we are going for confederation of universities, not any kind of federation. So that's the main idea. And then later on, we will see what does this mean, either to establish something that is common for all European Union countries. The issue was also, what about countries that are not members of the EU? Because we know the participants should be the members of the Erasmus program. The question is, of course, if we would have legal entity like European University, would it be possible for those that are not members of the EU to be involved in such activity? So these long-term plans are still kind of at the level of sustainability, and at the moment I believe it's too early to make any final decision. Then about communication strategies. From the very beginning, I remember when we started discussions with different alliances, at that time I invited all our deans of our university, and different alliances were represented, and I asked them to decide either to join certain alliance or not. So from the very beginning, our deans were involved in this process of developing a new university alliance. And later on, after 1 year, I can tell you now that we are of course applying for new projects. And if we do that at the level of university, we cannot follow anymore, because that means that we should create very big project team. And the idea now is, of course, we have to involve again our professors, our researchers from different faculties to be actively involved in all future projects. So that's the way how to get the spirit of being the member of the alliance. And maybe a word about multilingualism. For us, for Slovenia, it is well known that we have very strict rules, legal rules about the use of foreign languages in higher education system. But I think the European alliances are a good opportunity to provide these options also for our students on one side. And of course, I believe we will have in the future exchange of students in much bigger extent as we have today. And on the other side, we are also providing extra courses for all foreign students that are coming to Slovenia. And I believe the same will happen also in other countries, but of course the main language is obviously English. Again, it is important that via European alliances, we establish so-called brain circulation, and this is only possible if we open our universities, and that's the general idea. So even if there are some strict rules regarding the use of language, I think now it's excellent opportunity to set very strict rules how to use foreign language, when to use, and on the other side to enable exchange of students.
Thank you very much. And now let's hear from for them. Ina, please.
Universities for the Alliance look forward to long-time project of our cooperation. Therefore, now we still are in the construction of the best model how to cooperate in the future. So we are working along our constitution, statutes. This document would involve the principles of cooperation in all the levels, and we hope that our rectors would be able to sign this document at the beginning of the next year. Meanwhile, we have established so-called steering committee, as we are 7 universities, 4 persons from each university are involved in this committee, including students, and we consider students as very important part of our cooperation. We have 3 so-called mission boards. For instance, one of the most important is a mission board for our research labs, and we also have some kind of administrative structure, how we are going to organize our work in all the research labs, in development of common projects and so on. And our staff has meetings every week where all these issues have been discussed. As for our communication, we have a homepage we have a special chat room in our websites. We are having daily contacts with our colleagues involved in these research labs, and up to now, of course, even during this COVID crisis, we still manage to communicate quite efficiently. As for our internal communication, already when we were preparing our application for participation in the European Alliance, we informed our deans, directors of research institutions about this idea and asked for their support. Of course, there were different points of view, but most of our colleagues supported our application to this alliance, and when it came into being, they were quite enthusiastic to offer their participation in these research labs. They involved students, especially doctoral students, and now we are active participants in all 7 research labs, and inform about our activities in our university homepage, in different social networks, and there is monthly information about the course of affairs in the European Alliance, provided by our rector to our deans, directors of institutes, and to our Senate. But as I told you, the system is still under construction, both at individual universities and within an alliance as such, but we hope that after the end of the project, we will have very clear and definite idea how to function as European university. About multilingualism. As sociolinguist, I'm very well aware that multilingualism is a very important issue. Of course, we function mostly in English, but 7 national languages are represented within our alliance, and we are strongly convinced that it's necessary to give to our exchange students, to our partners in other universities, a possibility to learn more about our languages and cultures. And in order to do this, we have such a special research lab, Multilingualism in School and Higher Education. Schools are also involved, so our social partners are actively participating in these activities. We are preparing for online digital academia, and programs will be available in all 7 languages. And as representatives of higher education, we are paying a lot of attention to modern teaching methods concerning English as second language, and also concerning ideas how to promote our national languages, both among students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ina. And now again, Luisa, representing UFE, please.
Yeah, concerning our governance, it is very inclusive as it is incorporating various stakeholders, both at the academic level and also from actually our students and the government and citizens. So we have on the top a strategy board, which is the decision-making body of our alliances, which is composed by the rectors of UFE. And then we have a UFE project management board, which is operationalizing all the strategy board decisions, and is coordinating all the institutional coordinators in each university. And then more importantly, as our alliance is student-centered, basically the president of the UFE Student Forum is actually sitting also in the strategy board. So they really are co-creators of their academic programs that has been launched today. So the diploma supplement track has been created also thanks to the contribution of our students. Concerning the dissemination, we actually have both internal also restricted dissemination for our academics and staff, and public dissemination. On one side, we have what we call the information package of UFE, which is informing about the mission, the results, and how to participate in the UFE Alliance. And this is somehow informing especially academics and the staff. Then we have some events that we are organizing. One is the European University Forum that we use to share the best practice among those that are participating in UFE. And we also involve in this activity regional, national, and European policymakers. And then we have UFE events that are open to the public, and students, staff, and also citizens. We have organized a series of UFE Academy lectures that are presenting our alliance, and we have actually been focusing this lecture on the first modular thematic area of UFE, that was European identity. And on the 7th up to the 9th of December, we have the first UFE Town Hall event that is dedicated to local governments and citizens. Finally, with respect to multilingualism, well, we are aware, of course, that we have to create a common cultural environment. So we actually have in the program, in the diploma supplement track, the possibility for students to learn a second language. We have already an open program that is online, where students in premise, but also our academic staff and the administrative staff can learn any language from all the countries in the Alliance, virtually, of course, because of the pandemics, via language courses and language cafe, which are interactive environments to learn a second language. So I would say that with this virtual campus, we are actually achieving the possibilities for students and staff also to travel virtually around Europe and visit all our universities and learn languages and therefore the cultures from all of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luisa, also for touching up on this topic of the involvement of students. And we are planning to do an activity for students in the future, because I think this is very important also to look at this the project of European University from the angle of students, of course. And UNICA has a long-standing tradition of organizing student conferences. So that could be something very, very interesting to debate. Now, unfortunately, it is a bit late. I would like also to thank, in the meantime, some of the participants who asked some questions, and namely Nina McGuinness from Leibniz University, Hanover, asking a question related to onboarding the internal structures of individual universities, which I think was actually answered by some of the interventions, and also Veronika Kuprianova from the Academic Cooperation Association, mentioning, of course, virtual student and staff mobility. This is, again, is a big topic that we are planning to, discuss on another event. But I would like to include, this problem of, physical and virtual mobility in the last round of answers, and I really ask all the panelists to do the miracle of trying to answer in 1 minute, this time, to a very complex question, which is related, of course, to the impact of the COVID pandemics on what we are doing. I mean, our alliances have been designed much before the COVID, and this is the second year already started of the alliances of the first, call. And the COVID came, and of course the impact was dramatic, I think, for many universities and many alliances. If you can summarize, the impact of the pandemics on your own alliance, of course, with reference to virtual mobility, blended mobility, I mean, what we are trying to do in many universities, and also, of course, a few words about the sustainability plan, which already was touched upon by some of the speakers, and see how we can proceed actually in the future with the European University project. Thank you. And we start, of course, again with Verena, with representing Europa.
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic was quite a challenge to us and all our partner universities. And within UNA Europa, we very quickly, already in April, started to have an initiative called Transform Emergency Now, the UNA 10, where we had challenges from civil society or from private enterprises that we then had solved by students working together in virtual international teams. That was quite a successful team effort. The students had then a certain time to prepare their answer, and then it was presented to the challenger who brought the task in the first place, and was also made available to the general public. And some of the ideas then also were implemented by some city governments of our university locations. From the past semester, we also started virtual mobility in times of emergency, opening up online courses that were made available to all UNA member universities. And we had quite a success with that. So we will also continue that now in the coming term. And overall, we found that the pandemic was quite a challenge, but that it has also given us a massive boost to digitalize more and to then also provide elements that can also be included in teaching and research in the future when the pandemic is over. So in that way, this is something to stay the same way as UNA Europa as a European university is meant to stay beyond the funding of the European Commission. So we are quite excited that it works so well and are confident to go forward in the future.
And thank you very much. And now let's hear from 4EU+. Henrik, please.
Thank you very much. We also in 4EU+ agree that the COVID at least has given us a chance to test if the concept of a virtual university is realizable at all. And our conclusion is, yes, it is. So we have managed to basically conduct all our joint governance virtually due to COVID. We have just concluded a large virtual annual meeting with a lot of stakeholders, the Commission and many other on board with a lot of attendance. Also, circumstances given, quite successfully. We are much more rapidly than expected developing online educational activities, courses, digital exchange, student cooperation online, so on and so forth, which I'm sure all of you are doing. And of course also looking into virtual joint degrees more than maybe the physical exchange as was otherwise foreseen. So all in all, I think COVID, maybe when at least it's behind us, we will say it was also somehow a blessing in disguise. At least it could be used for something good. On top of that, I think having this alliance has also enabled us to very quickly share experiences on how do we actually manage the COVID crisis as a university in a European member state, and quickly taking good lessons from other universities that have made good solutions to difficult problems. So also to that end, it's been very useful to be part of this network.
Thank you very much. And also I fully agree on this important role of networks in this crisis. Also in UNICA, as you know, we started in May, June to share experiences in the UNICA network. And I think that was really useful to help each other to find solutions to be a little bit, stronger together in this very difficult moment. Thank you. Now we continue with the ARQUS. Artūras, please.
Well, I think we all experienced similar things in our countries, and of course it was a very sudden change which forced us to think how can we move some activities virtually, and we did that. And for example, I had this thing about challenge-based learning. We have very similar approach in challenge-based learning action, which we are now implementing. But the general feeling is that, well, we can do a lot of things online, but still to develop the sense of community, we need to meet. We need to to shake hands, to smile, and to to talk informally in order to create this sense of community. So I hope that the COVID will pass away and we will be able to do that. In terms of sustainability, I would say that if you look at the second call of the European Commission for alliances, it is much more explicit about the need to create common structures. And we belong to the first call, and actually we are now in this process of reflection. How do you move from activities and actions towards structures? So this is the main challenge. I think it will become one of not the challenge, but maybe the themes of thinking together in order to survive the project and move on as a European university beyond the project life cycle. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Let's hear from Charm. Ferenc, please.
Thank you very much. I try to be very quick. So on sustainability, I would like to mention again the very important role of the alliances groups in case of the legal discussions. CHARMU is taking a leading role, a very active position, and of course also within the alliance we are planning on various fields and various expert groups in terms of financial sustainability, in terms of governance, in terms of human resource management. Regarding the COVID situation, what it caused, on the one hand, of course, it was very challenging for us, but I'm very glad to say that we managed the emergency situation in spring. And on the other hand, I must also say that while it was very challenging, we learned a lot from this situation. And from our side, I can also mention that ELTA is responsible within the Alliance for mobility and inclusiveness. And of course, in both respects, the COVID pandemic is showing us many new ways, new challenges we must face. And in terms of virtual mobility, blended mobility, and also the question how we can keep up inclusiveness in case of such a crisis in various terms, also in the field of teaching and learning, of course. So we are fighting with these questions, and I think it was very important to see, even if it was in a very early phase of our joint activities, how this works in practice. So we are trying to make the best out of this very critical and challenging situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ferenc. Let's hear from CIVIS. Astrid, please.
Thank you. Well, I think that for CIVIS, our step-by-step approach that I already mentioned with 3 phases of implementation, the fabric phase, the construction phase, and the consolidation phase, has served us well because that has made us very flexible. So, of course, with the COVID crisis challenging us all, some things had to be done differently than we would have wanted to or strived for. For example, student mobility has had to become virtual mobility and so on. But as we all shared the same basic conditions, we all had to go digital overnight. I still think that the advantages of having such an international network in times where we are very confined within our national borders has been of immense importance, at least for our alliance. And I also must say that I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised by how well things have worked. I will just mention one example to finish. A concrete challenge was that we were supposed to arrange a conference, the Global CIVIS Days, our first joint conference, with an online conference on education for a sustainable future. And of course, we tried to postpone this event because we really wanted it to become physical. And then suddenly we realized, no, we have to do this digitally. And the idea with this conference was not only to discuss the issues, but also to create a sense of community between our universities. And I must say that I was really, really surprised that it went so well and that we really felt that we are a true alliance after that conference.
I fully agree, Astrid. It has been a really terrible year, very tragic for many people. But indeed, for universities, we realized that certain things went even better than we thought in the beginning, in January, February. So I think in the new normal, probably we will need to use these lessons learned. And so now very quickly I give the floor to Igor to have the experience of UTOPIA.
Thank you, Luciano. So I will comment only this COVID issue. I would say inclusion gained a digital dimension and internationalization was moved to virtual space. So it was, of course, a kind of a shock in the beginning of the year because that was first year of our activities. But we, in that time, we managed to organize two very successful UTOPIA weeks. The first one was organized in June by Paris, and the second one was last week, organized by Warwick. And, you know, during this week, we had 25 different events, of course, all virtual. It is clear that we prefer meetings in person, absolutely, but we show that it is possible also under these different circumstances operate effectively. And I remember the discussion from the last week meeting. You know, the question was what we can do together, what only together, and what the university cannot do individually. And absolutely, we came to a conclusion that this virtual mobility is probably one thing where we have established good contacts, so we can directly communicate at the level of rectors, and it's much easier now to organize anything related to that, because we know that this will be important part also in the future. So we have to learn also some, we have to make also some good examples that we can use in the future. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you very much. And now Ina, representing for them.
I could say that we are sharing much of your experience, esteemed colleagues. So maybe I only would like to add that we are looking to our alliance as a long-term project, but we are quite depending on the common European strategy, and therefore we are trying to contribute to transnational higher education strategy liberated by European institutions. And as concerns this COVID era, maybe this online experience would help us to develop this strategy concerning not only physical exchange and cooperation, but also the digital one. And as for COVID experience, our alliance is trying to reallocate resources previously meant for physical meetings to much more wider involvement of our students in research labs, and it also could be evaluated as very positive measure, because now more and more students are being aware of the activities of our alliance, and it will be a contribution to our future after the COVID era.
Perfect. Thank you, Ina. And now, last but not least, Luisa, representing UFE, please.
Yeah. Basically, it's a shared experience. UFE actually was built to enhance physical mobility. Then we had to face the pandemic crisis, and actually it was a challenge that we actually think we did take. You know, in a successful, we did tackle in a successful way. So what we have done actually to move everything on, you know, on our, as I said before, on our virtual campus, and now we also have been able to build a student portal, which is actually very close to what the European Commission wants, that is the creation of a European student area, the so-called European dimension of mobility. This student portal will enable students from all the European countries that are part of our alliance to enroll in courses from other UFE universities, and also to implement extracurricular activities that will count towards their diploma supplement. Moreover, we've also been able to move all the mobility of our staff from, for example, for our researchers, using the facility of the UFE mobility track. And for the academic staff, we also have a set of job shadowing activities that are running online for personal development. So basically, we have been successful, I think, in this respect to fully develop a virtual campus that is enhancing the mobility of both students and academic and non-academic staff. Concerning the sustainability of UFE, we have a dedicated work package on sustainability that ensures that the UFE Alliance will be financially viable and able to continue its activity after the end of this pilot phase. We are also thinking of establishing a non-profit UFE legal entity as a vehicle to achieve financial sustainability and to expand further the involvement of UFE in the society. So this specific work package is a task force with a multidisciplinary team that involves experts on national, regional and European funding, fundraising from donations and networks, business development and legal experts. We have also been partially successful with this UFERING project. We also gained additional 2 million funding to develop the research innovation dimension of UFE. So somehow the sustainability dimension is still at the beginning, but it is somehow also giving some preliminary good results. Thanks.
So, thank you very much, Luisa. Unfortunately, the time is up. We need to close this panel now. I really would like to thank very much the panelists for the very interesting contributions. I learned a lot, and I think it was very useful for all of us to share some ideas. I hope it was also useful for the attendees. Thank you also to all of them for participating. And we are planning to organize other activities on this very important European project. So, we will inform all UNICA members about the next activities. The calendar of the UNICA